Dirty audio? Clean it up. This week we're going to be taking a look at different ways to clean up audio from a bad recording session. So when it comes to cleaning up your audio tracks, there's not one end-all be-all solution, but there are some really powerful tools out there that we're going to take a look at today. So for this video, I've got two examples. The first example is just a test dialogue track with a 1K tone in the background that we're going to try and clean out. The second one is a test dialogue track where I actually had the fan blowing directly on the microphone to give a lot of background noise. So we're going to take a look at Izotope's RX7 spectral cleaner. We're going to take a look at Adobe Audition spectral cleaner. And then just for fun, we're going to throw it in Audacity and see if we can't do it ourselves. So let's go ahead and take a look at the two different tracks that I have here. So the first one, like I said, is just a dialogue track with a 1K tone in it. This is a test vocal track with a 1K tone in the background. And this is the second audio clip that has the fan blowing in the background. You can tell just by looking at the waveform that there's a lot of noise there. So let's go ahead and take a listen to it. This is a test vocal track with a fan on. So depending on what kind of device you're actually watching this video on, you might not even be able to hear it because it's such a low hum. But if we were actually making like a podcast or something, that would be detrimental to our audio. So we still want to clean it up. All right, so the first track that we're going to take a look at is the one with the 1K tone. And we're here in Izotope's RX7. And you can see straight through the audio where that 1K tone is. So if we just go ahead and play this. This is a test vocal track with a 1K tone in the background. So you can clearly hear that 1K tone. So with Izotope's RX7, we can actually go in here and we can grab the frequency select tool. And we can select just that frequency. And so if we go down here to this play button, we can actually listen to only what we have selected. And you can hear it kind of wavers a little bit as the dialogue track's happening. And that's just because there's some frequency deviation. So if we go up here to modules, we can go down to gain. And here we can actually adjust the gain in just what's in this selected area. So if we completely pull that down and render it and then deselect, you can see that it just completely cuts it out. And so if we were to take this audio track and then play it again. This is a test vocal track with a 1K tone in the background. And so for this example, just completely cutting it out, we really don't lose anything with the dialogue track. If you were experiencing a bunch of different noise in your dialogue track, you might want to blend it a little bit better. But for this, we cut it out and it actually sounds great. RX7 does also have this repair assistant that we can go in and we can choose whether it's a dialogue track, music track, or other. So since it's a dialogue track, we can go ahead and start the analysis of it. And so what this is going to do is it's actually going to spit out 3 different suggestions. Now you can see the original in the clip. You can definitely see that the 1K tone's still there. In the other 3 suggestions, you can see that the 1K tone is gone, but it also did a couple other processes. Like for instance, this one is a dehum and a dialogue isolate. This one is a dehum, voice denoise, and a gain. And then we have a dehum and spectral denoise. So when we cut out that 1K tone just manually, we left a gap in that 1K tone. So what these 3 suggestions are going to do is they're actually going to go in and they're going to repair that. That way we don't lose out on any frequency response if we don't have to. So if we take a listen to each 3 of these. This is a test vocal track with a 1K tone in the background. This is a test vocal track with a 1K tone in the background. This is a test vocal track with a 1K tone in the background. And so out of the 3, my favorite was the second one. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And then we can just click render. And then that'll render out the audio file. And you can see there's tiny little remnants of that 1K tone in there, but nothing that's going to be noticeable. It also repaired a lot through the dialogue track. So now let's take a look at that dialogue track that had the fan on in the background. And just by taking a look at the spectral audio, you can see that we've got a whole lot of low end frequencies down here from the fan.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
So if we were to do the same process that we did with the 1K tone, and we just select the problem area and then pull the audio down, it'll get rid of that hum, but we're also probably going to get rid of a lot of the low end on the vocal track. Let's take a look. So I pulled the gain down on that problem area, and it tried to repair some of it. As you can see, there's still little remnants left. But if we take a listen to this vocal track, you can definitely tell that we lost some of the low end on the dialogue itself.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
And just for context, here was the original.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
So you can hear that it did take out a lot of that low end. So we're going to go into the repair assistant and see if that'll help clean it up a little bit. All right, so again, we've got 3 different suggestions. And again, this was the original.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
All right, and then this is suggestion A, which just has dialogue isolation on it.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
So there's still a little bit of hum in that one. This one's got a voice denoise and gain on it.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
All right, so there's still quite a bit of that hum there. And this one is a spectral denoise.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
So you can hear in each one of these that the hum is still pretty much there. Out of all of them, A was probably the cleanest. So we can't actually go in here and change the chain intensity. So we're going to bump this all the way up and then see if that helps at all.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
So you can hear it actually cleaned up a lot of that hum when we move the intensity all the way to the right. So we're going to go ahead and render that out and take a look at it. So with that rendered out, when we're looking back at the spectral audio, we can still see that there's quite a bit in here. We may be able to go in with an EQ afterwards and kind of roll off some of the low end and get it even cleaner. We might be able to even highlight this and just bring down the gain a little bit, because I mean we're under 100 hertz at this point. So let's try to bring it down just a little bit and see if we can't clean it up a little bit more. So I pulled it down about 20 decibels. I didn't want to completely cut it off because then we're going to lose a lot of low end in the dialogue itself. But I just wanted to try and pull some of that background noise out. So let's take a look and see if that's any better.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
So that seems pretty clean to me. Most of that low end, depending on the device that you're listening on, you're not going to hear it. You're just going to hear that audio come through. So I think Izotope's RX7 did a really great job on these, and I can see why they're one of the top used plugins for audio cleanup. All right, so now we're over in Adobe Audition, and there's a lot of people who don't know that Adobe Audition actually has a spectral cleaner built into it. So if we come up here under favorites, we can actually show the spectral frequency display or the spectral pitch. If we choose the spectral frequency display, we actually get a similar window to what we had with Izotope RX7. And so now that we're in our spectral cleaning, we can actually see that 1K tone that we had before. And I'm not going to play it again because you guys have already heard it. But what we're going to do is we're going to come up here underneath help, and we're going to select our marquee selection tool, where you can just press E on the keyboard. And that's going to allow us to select a range. So what we're going to do is we're going to select just that 1K frequency, very similar to what we did with Izotope. And if we hit the delete key, it actually just goes ahead and deletes it. And just like we saw in RX, we now have that gap at 1K. So if we were to hit play on this, you'd be able to hear that the 1K tone is gone, and we'll see how that affects the dialogue track.
This is a test vocal track with a 1K tone in the background.
So it actually cleaned it up really well. If we were looking at the comparison between RX7 and Adobe Audition, I would say that this form is super comparable to each other. So now we're going to take a look at the audio track that had the fan on in the background. And again, just like RX7, you can see down here at the bottom, we've actually got a lot of that low end noise. So what we can try to do, like we did before, is we can take our marquee tool and we can go in here and select it. And if we hit our delete key, it'll go ahead and delete it. But now we've got rid of a lot of that low end. So let's take a look at how that affects the vocal track inside Audition.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
So you can see with the male vocal, the low end is actually where a lot of the tone comes from. If I were speaking in a higher register, this might have worked a little bit better, but the male vocal is usually around 800 to 1K in tonality, just on average. So when we get rid of those subharmonics of the male vocal, that's where we end up losing a lot of our frequency content. So with the 1K tone, I think it did a great job, just like Izotope's RX7. But when it comes to getting rid of low frequencies and background noise, it's not quite as good. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we were going to compare the two, and then we were going to throw everything in Audacity and try to do it ourselves. And the reason that I wanted to do this is because there's a lot of podcasters out there, YouTubers, who are recording their voiceovers in Audacity because it's free. They might not have the money for plugins, like myself. The Izotope RX7 I was using was actually a 10-day free trial. So I want to take a look at how we're able to clean up this audio inside a free tool that a lot of you are probably using for voiceovers, whether it's a podcast or your YouTube videos. So again, to start off, we've got our dialogue track here that has the 1K tone in the background.
This is a test vocal track with a 1K tone in the background.
And we need to figure out how to get that tone out of there as cleanly as possible. Now in Audacity, we don't have a spectral cleaner, so this may be a little more difficult, but let's see what we can do. So the first thing that I wanted to do, because I know that it's a 1K tone, I wanted to come in here with an EQ and see if I couldn't just simply notch out that 1K tone and see what we get. So flipped over to our graphic EQ. If I just come up here to 1K and yank it down, it's going to pull the EQ down to about, looks like it's about 15 decibels, but we're also affecting everything from about 700 hertz to 1400 hertz. So let's hear how that sounds.
This is a test vocal track with a 1K tone in the...
So you can still hear some of that 1K frequency, and it made the vocals really hollow. So that's not going to be a viable option. Now, unfortunately, with the graphic EQ, we don't get the ability to adjust the Q when we notch stuff out. So I'm going to actually come in here to the draw EQ, and I'm going to make my own notch. It's not perfect, but it gives us a better Q, and we're not affecting as much of the frequency range around it.
This is a test vocal track with a 1K tone in the...
So as you can hear, it actually did a really good job for just grabbing the 1K and pulling it down. And if I were working on a podcast or something and I had to get rid of a 1K tone in the background, I would absolutely be happy with that. So now let's take a look at the dialogue track that had the fan on in the background. And this is the one that even gave us some trouble in Adobe Audition. Now please note that there are some processes in Adobe Audition that we could have went into to clean that up a little better. My main goal though was to focus on spectral cleaning. We could have went through and did some EQ adjustments and things like that, but I really wanted to try and see how quickly we could get it done for somebody who might be working on a time crunch. Now, obviously in Audacity, we don't have the tools that we have, so we have to go through and manually clean everything up. So that's why I wanted to throw this in here to see if it could be done to the level of the spectral cleaning that we were doing earlier. So to try and get rid of that hum, Audacity actually does have a noise reduction tool. So what we need to do is we need to select a little bit of the noise that we want to get rid of, get the profile on that, and then it'll apply it to the whole clip. So we've got selected about 2.5 seconds before the dialogue actually starts. So we can come back in here to our noise reduction and we'll get the noise profile. And then we can go ahead and select the entire clip. And then when we come in here to our noise reduction tool again, the profile is already loaded. And then if we hit preview.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
You can hear that it actually did a really great job of getting rid of that low end hum. And then if we render that down, you can actually see that the waveform around the dialogue track where the noise was coming in is actually a lot smaller. It's still there, but that's something that we could probably EQ out in the end. So what I've done to try and get rid of the remainder of that hum is I actually came in here to the EQ. We went back to the graphic EQ And I did a roll off of everything under 100 Hertz. So if we go ahead and take a listen to that.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
So you can hear that that hum is further reduced, and we're not losing anything off the bottom end of the dialogue track. And if we render that down, you can see even more where that noise was is now gone. And again, if we play the whole thing.
This is a test vocal track with a fan on.
You can hear that that audio is actually super clean. So in both examples with the 1K tone and the hum in the background, while we didn't have a spectral cleaner inside Audacity, we were still able to clean that up really, really well. Again, if I were doing a podcast, voiceover, or voiceovers for my YouTube videos, I would absolutely be okay with this. So as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in and hanging out. I really hope you were able to find some useful takeaways from this video. And don't forget, there's still plenty of time to get your entries in for the I Challenge You to Sound Design This Clip #2 video that I put out last week. Those are due by December 27th, so I can't wait to hear what you guys come up with for that. And if there's anything else that you'd like to see in my videos, make sure you drop a comment down below, or you can get a hold of me on any one of these social media channels. Until next time.